Hi everyone, today we have an exciting project to make. We're making this turban headband from scratch using a needle. Now this is super exciting for me because I haven't used a needle in a while. For a project we will need two pieces of fabric of equal length and width. So in my case I've used this piece of fabric measure 18 inches by 5 inches, and then I have this tiny piece of fabric that measures 7 inches by 3.5 inches. I will also need a needle and a piece of string to sew. So like I said, we're making this one from scratch using a needle. I mean, you don't always have to have a sewing machine to make some lovely stuff. I started off with just a needle, and I believe anyone, as long as you're inspired to do this, can start off with a needle. Now the only challenge with this project with me is it took quite some time because I'm so used to a machine and now it's a needle, but it's actually doable. You do not have to do it all in one sitting. You can split it into different you can do it whenever you're free. Do a section of it at a time. It does not have to be in one sitting. So as you've seen, I've folded my tiniest piece of fabric. I've started with that in two. I've pressed it and then I'm stitching it shut. Now you want to leave the two edges, the two sides open, and then you're just shutting along the long side, and then the width sides are gonna remain open. I'm gonna show you what I mean at the end of this because I don't think I'm making sense. So yeah, I'm stitching them. You can use any type of stitches you prefer. I can't remember the name of this stitch, but I like it because it's quite strong whenever you use it. So you stitch and then you go back to where you left off and proceed, something like that. I'll find out the name and then I'll let you guys know. So I'm going to use that kind of stitch for join up all my fabrics. I've already joined the tiny one, and now I'm joining the long ones. Like I said, this is a project you can do over time. You do not have to do it in one day. Oh, and one more thing to mention is I am not so good with my straight stitches, especially with my hand. So as you can see, I'm using the lines on the fabric, lucky me, to guide me on where to make my stitches and how to make them straight. But I'm not worried even if they're not straight, because at the end of it all they shall be hidden. And then it's a headband. It will be hidden. The stitches will be hidden because I'll have to turn this fabric around. Oh yeah, and in case you're using a fabric, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, in case you're using a fabric that has a right side and a wrong side, please fold it with the right sides facing each other. That's a trick that you will have to use for most of your sewing. Fold it with the right side facing each other, because eventually you turn everything the right way out. Not sure it makes sense. I'm gonna show you what I meant. So the right sides have to be facing each other at all times. So yeah, I have finished it off camera, and now this is my third piece of fabric. Remember, it measures 18 inches long by 5 inches wide. Yep, so I finished everything. The 3 fabrics are there, and now what I need to do is I need to turn them around. So the right side, remember, they were facing each other, so now they have to come out and hide the stitches inside. That's pretty much what I mean. What I'm doing here, you can use your free hand if your bigger pieces of fabrics are big enough for your finger to go through, like I'm doing here. I'm not using any pin. I'm using my fingers to just push it out and pull it out. So you can easily do this if it's wide enough. But if it's not, I'm going to show you with a tiny piece of fabric what you can do to pull it the right side out. So it's not a trick, it's something you can actually do. I find this easier than a pin, especially if it's a big fabric. So I'm going to do that to the 2 big ones. Now for this one I decided to use a pin just so I show you what I mean. So you just pin one end of your fabric and then tuck in the pin and push it in. I have a really tiny pin here, but if you have a huge safety pin, that will be to your advantage. So you pin one end, push it in, and push and pull the fabric as you go along. I mean, like you can see me doing. It's easier when you're looking at it than when I'm explaining it. Yeah, so I'm gonna do for the this for the second fabric, almost there, and then I'll have one more piece of fabric to go, the tiny one. I mean, that one I had to use a pin because it's really tiny. So I remove the pin again. I put it on one side of the fabric, pin just one side, make it, turn the pin to safety mode, and then push it inside. Try not to press the pin so that it unpins. Language is hard, my friends, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, I've turned all the 3 pieces of fabric the right side out, and then I'm going to give them a really nice press. Now this time I'm pressing them with the stitches facing up, okay, so like you can see me do. So I'm going to give them a really nice press and then come back. Oh, I forgot to mention, I also need a elastic band for the project. Yeah, so your elastic band has to be shorter than the tiniest piece of fabric. As you can see, mine ended up being quite long, but it has to be shorter. So if I use the fabric that is 7 inches, I would have taken an elastic that's around 5 inches or 4.5. Yeah, because you want it to be elastic and to have that nice pattern at the back. So again, I'm gonna stitch like I'm showing you right now. I'm gonna stitch the elastic together with the edges of my tiny piece of fabric. So I did this because I had a really huge elastic and I wanted to have more gathers at the back. So again, as you can notice, I'm using my hand. It's a fully hand and needle project, and it's exciting for me because come on guys, I haven't done this in a while, and to be honest, I really needed you to know you don't have to have a sewing machine to make some amazing little things. So again, that's me. The other side, do the same thing. Stitch the fabric to the elastic like I'm doing. Again, I'll repeat, if your fabric is 7 inches, try and make your elastic around 3.5 inches shorter than the fabric to give it that a beautiful gathery finish. Yeah, you'll see what I mean. This is what I mean. So it looks, when you pull it, it's straight, but it has those lovely gathers. And then I'm going to join this fabric to the elastic fabric. So just folding one of the long ones in half, putting it in the middle and folding it like you can see, and then I'm gonna stitch them together. Now this was hard, my friends. This was really hard. I struggled with my needle because it wasn't quite going through. Let me show you what I mean. Oh yeah, I'm threading my needle at this point. I didn't realize I still have this bit of the video on. Yeah, threading my needle. I think I'm done. Almost. Come on, D. Almost there. So this was really hard for me because the fabrics are heavy. All the fabrics together make it really heavy, and for me to push the needle through was quite a challenge. So as you can see, I was unable to get the needle in and out, so I decided to go one side at a time. If you find this easy as well, you can do this. If you have a tinier, thinner needle, the better, because it goes in easily. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but it goes in easily. So tinier, thinner needle. Problem is it slides in your hands, so it might be a little tricky. Now this whole project can again be done using glue, fabric glue. So where I've joined everything using my stitches, you can easily glue it, join it, wait for it to dry, turn it around, join the elastic to the fabric. I mean, you can glue it to the end if you have glue, and that's an easier option for you. Okay, so yeah, I have managed to stitch them together after a long struggle. Note, I folded one of my huge pieces of fabric. I placed the tiny piece of fabric with elastic in the middle on the raw edges, and then I closed them in and I stitched them together like you can see. So I have something that looks like that. Don't worry about the raw edges, they shall be hidden eventually. I'm gonna tuck this one in like you can see. No knots. If you want to do a knot, you can do it, by the way. If you want to make it prettier, or whatever design you want at the front, you can do it. And then again, after getting it through, I've done the same thing. Hold the two edges straight, put your elastic in the middle, close them up, and do your stitches. Again, glue would be perfect for this project if you have it and if you find it easy. This was hard, people. Getting that needle through those 3 or 4 layers of fabric was not the easiest job. So as you can see, I'm trying to push it through on my table. Yeah, but I really had loads of fun doing this. Took some time, but it's fun, and it's something you can easily do at the comfort of your house. Now, you do not have to have an Ankara fabric to do this. An old t-shirt will do, an old dress will do. Now, for my first project, I remember going to Mtush to buy clothes just so I can come cut them up and use those tiny pieces of fabric. That's a story for another day. So as you can see, I've already finished off the headband, and now you tuck it in so that the raw edges are neatly tucked inside, they're not visible. And then you turn everything around, and poof, your turban head.